This week on Instant Experts, it's Iran Week 4, and it's all happening.
Peace, or war, or stalemate, or nuclear annihilation are at hand.
Well, if you can't beat them, join them. We share our trading tips to profit from the war.
What could be more American than that? Do I have to change my name to Honk Trump, by the way?
It might help. And in sport, a partnership that Cagney and Lacey would be proud of.
I was always more of a heart-to-heart man myself.
Not Simon and Simon.
Hardcastle and McCormick, how about that?
Jake and the Fat Man. Turner and Hooch. Welcome back to Instant Experts, Persian Taco Edition.
Mm-mm.
So all the latest news explained by idiots, here to keep you sane in a crazy world. I'm Henry Lee, and as always, I'm here with my dear friend, the Honk. Honky, welcome.
Henry, my dear fellow, my dear friend, great to be here. Just a pleasure.
And where are you broadcasting from today, Honk? It looks like you've moved again. It looks like the palatial HQ of some two-bit dictator, in fact.
It is interesting you say that. I have mentioned previously on the show my little run-in with Iran.
Well, you did call the new Ayatollah a cunt.
Yeah, that little one. So it's good news finally. They've not only forgiven me, they've invited me to Tehran to use the Ayatollah's office as long as I like.
But isn't it US/Israeli policy to kill whoever is occupying the office of Iran head of state?
Is it really? It's interesting. I should check that, but there's actually no one else here. And in fact, there hasn't been since I moved into the Ayatollah's joint. I don't know. Been quite a few deliveries though. Just haven't had time to open them. I've been prepping for the show. Anyway, what a week. We say it every week. It's a show about crooks, fuckwits and morons. And yet again, we are packed to the gills with them in another very fun show.
We are. So what's caught your eye this week, Honk?
Well, it's really all about this place, Iran, again this week, isn't it? I mean, it is the... in a golden age of TV, it's the hit show everybody is talking about.
They really are. Markets are all over the place. The Dow's at 46,000, not 50,000. Bad luck, Pam Bondi. Everyone's feeling the pinch on petrol. And here in Australia, we're wondering if we're going to run out entirely.
Yeah, or if we're all going to die in a nuclear war.
Yeah, well, I think we're pretty safe from that. It's the starvation I'm worried about, Honk.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are the big plot lines this week?
Well, so many. I mean, spoiler alert, but, is the Ayatollah still alive? If he is, will he and Trumpy get back together?
Well, they control the Strait of Hormuz together. Trump actually floated that idea during the week, didn't he?
And what a wonderful deal for Iran. I mean, going from controlling the Strait of Hormuz by itself to controlling it with the United States of America, which means not controlling it at all.
How could Iran possibly say no to that kind offer? What else has been happening in Iran, the miniseries?
And there's the whole new plot thread with the question of peace talks. Are they happening? Are they not happening? If they're happening, who are they happening with? And of course, then you've got the third man in this love triangle, Bibi Netanyahu. And what will he do if Trump and the Ayatollah get together? And dynasty style, what might he do to stop them?
There are some pretty interesting business angles to the Iran show as well, Honk, which as our economics correspondent, I'm very keen to get to. But why don't you start by recapping the key events of the week?
Well, again, this season of Iran, as you said, is changing by the minute, but I will do my best. Last week, we said that while the war's done a lot of good in the sense it's blown up a lot of bad guys and a lot of Iran's military capability, the US, we said, was going to need to find an off-ramp pretty soon because the war is costing them a fortune and it's costing Trump political support. And that, of course, is because Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz, as we said, which has cut off 20-ish% of the world's oil supply and, as you referred to, sent gas prices through the roof.
Yeah, they're up over US $3 a gallon. They were $1.75 at the start of the year, so that's a 68% increase, which US consumers are obviously going to notice.
The Strait being closed also affects about 20% of LNG production, a lot of which comes out of Qatar, Saudi and the UAE, LNG being liquefied natural gas.
And that LNG, Honk, is used to produce a lot of energy in its own right, but it's also a key input to things like fertilizer, plastics, helium, a whole lot of stuff. And fertilizer, for example, ultimately affects food production, hence food availability and price all over the world.
Hence your comment about starvation.
Indeed. And then you get into things like the timing of when crops need to be planted, which in the Northern Hemisphere, including the US, is very soon. And the problems, unlike the fertilizer, pile up very quickly.
The horse shit, though, is piling up, so maybe they can use that. But just to clarify for our listeners, Henry, and our viewers, and obviously I'm all over this as a well-known master chemical engineer, but how do, just for the uninitiated, obviously not for me because I know, how does one actually get to fertiliser from liquefied natural gas?
Well,
and assume our listeners know nothing.
Well, please jump in if I have any of this wrong, your chemicalness, but LNG is mostly methane, which is CH4, one carbon, four hydrogen. That is combined with steam, water, and nitrogen via a three-step process to deliver CH3, which is otherwise known as ammonia. And that ammonia is then combined with carbon dioxide, CO2, to make urea, which is what most fertilizer is comprised of. The CO2, by the way, is a byproduct of the three-step process I mentioned, those three steps being, and I know you know this, Honk, firstly, steam methane reforming, secondly, a water gas shift, and thirdly, of course, the Haber-Bosch process, which combines nitrogen and hydrogen gases at high pressure and which revolutionised agriculture in the early 20th century by allowing the production of ammonia, hence fertilizer, on an industrial scale.
I have taught you well, young Padawan.
Hey, it's instant experts. First I was the pupil, now I am the master. So anyway, Trump needs an off-ramp.
Trump needs an off-ramp, and being Trump, his first tactic, of course, was bullying. So on Sunday, Trump tweets as follows: if Iran doesn't fully open without threat the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours from this exact point in time, the United States of America will hit and obliterate their various power plants, starting with the biggest one first. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump.
Right. Plenty of capitals there. How did that go?
Well, this is a poker game where you can raise, call, or fold. And Iran, let's just say, certainly didn't fold.
They raised.
Well, they at least call. They released a statement saying, quote, if Iran's fuel and energy infrastructure is attacked by the enemy, all your energy infrastructure, as well as information technology and water desalination facilities belonging to the US and the regime in the region will be targeted.
Right. That doesn't sound good.
But now, clearly, attacks on electricity will hurt Iran, but they will hurt their neighbours even more. The Gulf states, for example, consume around 5 times as much power per capita as Iran. A lot of it used to power the desalination plants that give places like Bahrain, Qatar, and Saudi the majority, or in some cases, all of their water.
Right, and they're desert cities, so not having water doesn't sound good.
It's not good for business. And don't forget, Iran had just wiped out 17% of Qatar's LNG capacity when they attacked the Ras Laffan industrial city in retaliation for Israel attacking Iran's South Pars oil field. So it was a credible threat.
So this is like a Western barroom brawl, isn't it, Honky? It's like two guys start fighting at the poker table and all of a sudden the whole saloon is breaking chairs over each other's heads.
That's exactly right. So all of a sudden Trump feels the heat from Qatar and Saudi and he starts channeling the Western saloon piano player.
Right. He flees screaming.
Maybe the bartender, he de-escalates. So he sends another tweet as follows. So this one reads, now, this is all uppercase, so I won't scream all the way through it. Right. I am pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had, over the last 2 days, very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East, based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which misspelled as WITCH, which will continue throughout the week. I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump.
Well, that's a big change in tone, Honk, isn't it? And a crueler and more cynical man than I, if there is one, might call that a Persian taco. Taco, of course, standing for Trump always chickens out. But it's actually good they're talking, isn't it?
Well, it would be good, except that Iran immediately denied they were talking. Iran has said no talks were being had at all.
No very good and productive conversations?
No.
With in-depth, detailed and constructive
no,
conversations?
Absolutely not. None. No.
With tenor and tone?
No.
So do we believe that, Honky?
Well, it's a fair bet both US and Iran are lying. I mean, it's a fair bet that they are talking to each other. And remember, in both areas, that is lying while also talking, the US and Iran have decades-long form. You think of the Iran-Contragate scandal of the late 1980s. And even worse, what we now know is the appalling probability that during that years-long US embassy hostage crisis of 1979 and 1981, the incoming Reagan administration, before they'd even won the election, probably convinced the Iranian regime, if you can believe this, to delay releasing the hostages who'd been there for over a year until Jimmy Carter's term ended to help Reagan get elected in return for the promise of arms sales to Iran. So
selling arms to the people who'd taken the Americans hostage.
Yeah, all while officially not talking. So again, the truth is they probably are talking now, but in back channels of our intermediaries. And it does seem like Pakistan is the main one at the moment. In fact, BJ Vance is even flying there now.
But maybe he's the decoy honk because he doesn't usually get the big assignments. He's usually stuck in the corner with the pot plant, like the one behind me.
Yeah, maybe that's true. Anyway, Trump here needs to combine looking tough with being reasonable, while Iran needs to be reasonable while looking tough and unreasonable.
Right. It's the art of the deal, the art of war, honky. What about Israel in all this? You mentioned the third side of the love triangle.
Yeah, well, Joan Collins is acting out.
She's not happy.
She is not happy.
Linda Evans. Well, you're a Linda or Joan man, by the way.
I think I
Blonde
was not
brunette.
really. Nah, I wasn't either. I think I was into the daughters and the the wayward Catherine Oxenberg. I was a Catherine Oxenberg man, I think.
Oh, it all becomes clear.
Yeah.
Anyway, Israel.
Israel. So Linda Evans Yahoo started a fresh 48-hour bombing
Not Joan
camp.
Kolinzinski.
John Jones Kolinzinski, no. She was the first wife, remember? It's a Jewish guy. He always wanted a blonde second wife.
So Linda Evans Yahoo.
Israel has started a 48-hour bombing campaign to get in while they can. Now, their goal is to destroy the entire Iranian arms industry, which poses a truly direct threat to them. Now, that is on top of Israel also now going back into southern Lebanon to try and wipe out Hezbollah, which, remember, is backed by Iran, and which much of Lebanon begged not to fire rockets into Israel in support of Iran during this Iranian war, because the Lebanese thought Israel would go back into southern Lebanon, which Hezbollah ignored, and so which Israel did, and which military action rich white far lefties in places like here in Australia who don't have to live in southern Lebanon are against, but which much of southern Lebanon, which last I checked does have to live in southern Lebanon, is actually in favour of.
Well, all that kind of makes sense. Israel's basically getting in while it can before peace breaks out. But going back to Trump negotiating with Iran, why does Iran need to be reasonable? Don't they have the upper hand at this point? I mean, the country itself isn't going anywhere. There are 92 million people in a big landmass. And as we discussed last week, we doubt the regime is either. And the Strait of Hormuz is closed.
Well, that's all very true, except Iran's other problem is that Trump is now bringing over the 82nd Airborne, which is the famous parachute and air assault division of the US Army, presumably to make the credible threat that the US could seize Iran's Karg Island, which is where all of Iran's oil comes from. And if the US does that successfully, if they were to blow it up, Iran is absolutely, truly fucked. Not to mention that the US and Israel will keep killing Iran's leaders until they find one that they can deal with.
Which I actually think is really smart. As long as it's not you, of course, Honky. Then again, even then. but in general, that's the key to getting this conflict resolved swiftly, sustainably, and at minimum costs. Basically, if you play ball, we do business. If you don't, we kill you, personally.
Indeed. So Iran has reportedly sent in a very serious hardline guy to lead these negotiations, a guy called Mohammad Ghalibaf, who has done plenty of bad things for the regime over the years, including, I read by his own admission, personally beating up anti-regime protesters with a bat. Truly, that's a true story. So they've sent Ghalibaf in on the basis that only a hardliner can make these concessions and be seen not to be capitulating to the enemy, to the United States and Israel, similar to the way that most major economic reform in Australia has happened under Labor governments, and most major social reforms in Australia have happened under our Liberal, that is our Conservative governments. So let's hope that US and Israel can get a deal done. Although right now, it's worth saying we're at the what I would call the day one Camp David Accord stage of the US and Iran demands, where both sides, making demands so insane they can only have been designed to make the other side howl with laughter, which, by the way, as a sort of a student of that period, that actually happened on day one at Camp David. One of the brilliant things that Carter did in the late 1970s, when Israel and Egypt's demands of each other was both so crazy, is that Carter, to break the ice at Camp David, got Israel's Menachem Begin and Egypt's Anwar Sadat in a room to read one another the other's demands to each other for fun, for a good laugh. And it actually worked. It actually broke the ice.
There you go. So that was assassinated, I think, later, wasn't he? Was that because he did a deal with Israel?
He did a deal with Israel, yeah.
There you go. I didn't understand.
He was assassinated. There's video of it. He was assassinated at a military march. In front of him, a parade, and then some of the soldiers suddenly broke out machine guns and shot him in the presidential booth where he was standing. It's terrible.
Wow. Yucca duck. Now, Honky, there is actually one surefire way to know if the US and Iran are really negotiating, even though we know everyone's lying, as you said.
What is that? Is that Israel taking Ghalibaf off their kill list temporarily?
Well, they actually did do that, I believe, with the emphasis presumably on temporarily. But no, I wasn't thinking of that.
Oh, what were you thinking of that?
The insider trading.
Right.
So the Trump administration is famous for insider trading, a reputation hard-earned, Honky, last year from the Liberation Day tariffs, when various insiders, including multiple members of Congress and we think multiple members of the Trump family, were trading in and out of positions ahead of tariffs being announced and particularly paused.
And of course, as we've talked about on the show, the Trump family also has its own cryptocurrency, Trump coin, which makes this all even easier.
That's right. It can all be done anonymously. So they're all at it again. This week, there were a whole bunch of bets on Polymarket, betting on peace with Iran by the 31st of March, all from anonymous accounts, all newly created accounts, and all via crypto. So about 70,000 US bet to win 820,000 US, so 10 or 11 to 1.
Anonymous accounts, crypto wallet, no insider trading or money laundering going on there at all.
But don't worry, Honk, it's all okay because Polymarket is a so-called prediction market. It's not a gambling website. What are you talking about? Poor old Sportsbet and TAB. Here in Australia, they have to have know your customer, anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing, point of consumption tax, just to take one bet on the horses. Polymarket and Kalshi call them prediction markets and skip every regulation we have. Genius rebranding, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's why we're called instant experts. But that's surely, the bet you mentioned, that's surely not the Trumps, though, on Polymarket. They'd be betting more than US $70,000, wouldn't they?
Well, Donald Trump Jr. is actually an investor in and on the board of Polymarket, so I wouldn't rule it out. But you're right, there was certainly much bigger action elsewhere. And in fact, 5 minutes before Trump's announcement that negotiations were underway, someone bought US $1.5 billion worth of S&P 500 futures and sold $192 million worth of oil futures.
Unbelievable. So, in other words, betting the stock market would go up and the oil price would go down.
That's right, which of course both those things did. And those trades were more than 4 to 6 times any other trade size during that period of trading.
Maybe they're just very good traders.
Maybe. Just very lucky guys.
Yeah, but it does say someone thinks peace is at hand. By the way, you mentioned the 31st of March as the speculated peace day. That is Tuesday next week.
It is, and that summarises everyone involved, the insider traders and most of the people involved in the conflict quite nicely. See you next Tuesdays.
So true.
Okay, Honky, it's time for our shout-outs to viewers and listeners, which we do every week, and we love to do. And we have loyal listeners all over Australia, of course, including a new location. At least I think it's a new location. So many episodes now, I can't quite keep track. And that is Myrtleford in Victoria, not far from Bright in the Victorian Alps.
Not far from Bright. That's a pretty good description of this show.
Yeah, we're not smart, but we can lift heavy things. Actually, that's not true either. They need to be pretty light things.
I was going to say, what about our best mates up north? Any Darwin this week?
Oh, yes. Well, Darwin's back too, except this week it's in Canada. It's come up as West Vancouver. We've also got Banjar Badung in Bali and Helsinki in Finland. They could be Darwin on holiday too. Who knows?
It's quite possible. I choose to believe that's what's going on. We have some regulars returning as well. Oakland, Memphis. Who knew we had a regular in Memphis? I never knew that till just then.
Yeah, I think it's Elvis.
Must got to be. Islington in London.
Yes, famous, of course, for the Angel Islington, which is one of the light blue properties in Monopoly, at least in the set that I played on growing up, which I played a lot.
Yeah, that was the British version.
Yeah, that's right. And I'd always assumed that the British version was the original and the US was the derivative. But now, of course, I realise it was the other way around.
Yeah, that's right. It was invented by an American woman named, we looked this up, Lizzie Maggie, I think was how it was pronounced, who devised it as an educational tool to illustrate the dangers of monopolies being used to crush competition. And instead it inspired millions of ruthless 7-year-olds on school holidays to become monopolists worldwide.
Indeed. And I never knew what the Angel Islington was. I always found it an intriguing name until very recently.
Is it a statue? Is it a nun? Is it a hooker with a heart of gold?
It was actually a pub. So the Angel Islington originally was established as early as 1614. And the guy from the games company was actually having a coffee there one day and just decided to include it on the UK board. So you could put a house on it for $50 or maybe £50 if you managed to get Pentonville and Euston roads.
But although even today, a house in Islington only costs a little bit more. I think it's £1.4 million. I'd also like, but I'd like to thank listeners, including James in Sydney, for kind words on last week's 50th episode. And also a nod to our TikTok audience who have gone nuts in the last week commenting on our Eric Trump says the new Ayatollah is a loser because entirely unlike Eric Trump, the new Ayatollah is a Nepo baby video. And also a nod to all the people who watched episode 50 on YouTube this past week. But Henry, sadly, I also want to tell you about a location that listened last week, but that will not be listening this week or thereafter.
Right. Was it something I said? Or was it you as usual?
On this rare occasion, it was neither of us. Hopefully the listener will still be with us, just not the location, because we got an emotional note this week from longtime listener, The Moose. The Moose, and he wrote in to say, it is with enormous sadness, I must advise you that due to relocation, the Clermont-Ferrand in France, chapter of the IEEFC, the International Instant Experts Fan Club, has closed. I can report, however, that your 50th Jubilee episode was broadcast in all its splendour to a room full of somewhat perplexed French folk who had foolishly thought they were just coming over to say bye and get a Saturday morning bagel.
Well, thank you, Moose, and do keep listening. Do we know where he's going?
Well, hopefully Darwin.
That might be just a little bit of a step down from Clermont-Ferrand.
Now.
I hope I've pronounced that correctly.
Darwin. Yeah, you did. You got it.
Okay, Honk, time for quick shots. And we have a bunch of corkers this week. First, the news that Robert Mueller died.
Mueller as in the Mueller report.
Yes, and many other things besides Honky. He was a Marine. He was a Vietnam vet. He won the Purple Heart. He was a federal prosecutor. He was a partner in a couple of big law firms. He was a homicide prosecutor, which he went back to do after making millions as a partner in a firm. And then he was the longtime head of the FBI from September 11 onwards. In fact, September the 4th that year onwards. A very smart, very ethical and super publicly minded guy, sort of an old school button-down conservative Republican. And he was, of course, asked to investigate allegations of Russian interference in the 2016 election, which he found to be systematic. But he, of course, never impugned Trump.
Yeah, that was the great flaw, wasn't it? He sort of sat on the fence about Trump, didn't he?
Yes, a report neither concluded that Trump committed a crime nor exonerated him, partly because Trump was the sitting president, and the view was that the sitting president could not be tried for a crime, a view that the Supreme Court later agreed with. So he basically proceeded on the basis Trump couldn't be prosecuted.
And how did Trump, expressing his gratitude, react to the death of Mueller?
Well, in his usual charming way, he tweeted, "Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people, President Donald J. Trump."
What a eulogy. What a send-off.
Well, to be fair, that's what we'll be saying about Trump when the time comes.
Did you see that even Joe Exotic, the lunatic Tiger King guy in the famous documentary, who's in jail for trying to murder an animal rights activist, he said he was shocked. He tweeted, quote, "I have no words. I wouldn't even say this about Carol Baskin." And Henry, Carol Baskin is the animal rights activist that Joe Exotic is in jail for trying to murder.
Now, Honk compared Trump's tribute with the beautiful one by Barack Obama, of course, the former president. He described Robert Mueller as, quote, "one of the finest directors in the history of the FBI and one of the most respected public servants of our time."
I mean, he's so classy, Obama. If the guy was reincarnated as a farm animal, he'd still be a higher class of farm animal. That may sound like a weird thing to say, but the comic Evan Berger demonstrated that point exactly just this week. Have a listen, have a look.
This is Obama as a rooster. Cock-a-doodle-doo. Cock-a-doodle-doo. Cock-a-doodle. Do.
That's outstanding.
Now, the other sad news, Henry, is we lost somebody else. We lost the billionaire Leonid Radvinsky, who died at just 43.
Right. The name's not familiar. Is he related to Joan Kolinzinski?
He's not. You're asking, do you know? Look, you probably don't know him, but you might know his staff because he was the owner of OnlyFans.
Don't know nothing about that. What was the dress code for the funeral, by the way?
Show some respect, would you? Okay, it was a really sad event.
Yeah, okay. What happened? You were there, obviously, as a
happened?
power user.
What happened? Look, I'm not sure what happened because only the first few minutes of the funeral were free. The full eulogy was $49.95. I looked deep inside the coffin, it was $89.95. And if you wanted to get really close to Leonard's corpse, and I mean really close, for just $1,499.95.
Vale. Now, in happier news, Honk, I was pleased to learn that the US has adopted Victoria-style financial management. That's the Australian state in which I have the fortune or misfortune to live. And that is paying for things not to be built, which is a local specialty. The US this week has refunded $1 billion to France's Total Energy, so it didn't build a wind farm off the East Coast.
Oh, if they'd paid $1.1 billion, they could have not had an east-west link either. And for only another $589 million, they could have completely not had the Commonwealth Games.
Even more amusing, Honk, is that Trump's local member, which is the state member in Florida for the area that includes Mar-a-Lago, that is Palm Beach, is now a Democrat.
Oh, God.
So a woman, a 40-year-old mother of three named Emily Gregory, won the seat of Palm Beach this week in a by-election. It had previously been held by a Republican with a 19-point margin. So the Republicans are on the nose, even in Trump's own backyard.
At least if the Iran war goes to shit, Trump can write to his local member.
She might actually care or do something.
There was one other little factoid in this story, I don't know if you saw, which was just magnificent. So Trump, who's been trying to ban this federally and has blamed his allegedly fraudulent presidential election loss in 2020 on this, voted in that state, Florida election, by mail-in ballot.
I didn't know that, but it doesn't surprise me at all. What a March 31.
What a March 31.
See you next Tuesday.
But there are some politicians that their people actually do love. Let's talk about a couple. The state of South Australia here re-elected last weekend the Labor Premier Peter Malinauskas. Now, it is getting truly North Korean down there. So the South Australia has in its House of Reps, its lower house, 47 seats. Labor is going to win at least 34 of them. Wow. Further to our discussion a couple of weeks ago, the far-right party in Australia, One Nation, got more votes in that state election than Australia's main Conservative party, the Liberals. The Liberals are probably going to end up with only 5 seats, that is versus Labor's 34. One Nation will probably get 4 seats. They'll be 1 seat off being the official opposition.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, Honk, what about the actual North Korea? Because I actually had an election this week too. You'll be pleased to learn that Kim Jong-il was re-elected with 99.93% of the vote.
Oh, squeaked out the win.
It was actually the first time that opposition votes had been recorded since 1957. So maybe he's losing his touch.
Well, what I read, actually, he would have got 100%, but a few voters missed the polls due to freezing to death, mass starvation, or life imprisonment in a labour camp for eating more than their fair share of rodent diarrhea on Kim's birthday public holiday.
Now, our last quick shot this week, Honk, it's a snippet from the National Convention of the Democratic Socialists of America.
Who are they? They're not the National Socialists, are they?
No, I think you're thinking of Stephen Miller.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yes.
The Democratic Socialists are a real party, and they've actually grown quite strongly in recent years as a reaction to Trump and with some of their ideas popularised by Bernie Sanders and others. Their policies are the usual pie-in-the-sky socialist stuff that doesn't acknowledge that money actually has to be generated before it can be spent, or in fact that money even exists.
sounds like where you live. Sounds like Victoria.
Exactly.
I've got to say, these people are exactly as woke as you would imagine, except even woker. They make our inner West Karen sound like Margaret Thatcher. You just have to have a watch/listen.
Quick point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Guys, first of all, James Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. I just want to say, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum? I'm one of the people who's very, very prone to sensory overload. There's a lot of whispering and chatter going on. It's making it very difficult for me to focus. Please, can we just, I know we're all fresh and ready to go, but can we please just keep the chatter to a minimum? It's affecting my ability to focus. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. Okay.
Point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Please do not use gendered language to address everyone. room, I see that no one's clapping for me. It could be because I'm not engaging, but it also is because everyone's doing this. And that's really important because those loud bursts of noise, even though this is a noisy space, when we can do something like reducing that, that's really important. So please don't clap, shoot up these. And additionally with the noise issue, like avoid hissing, avoid waving banners, right? If you don't know what to do, show up these, right? I'm sure there's lots of ways that we can communicate to each other without needing to rely on something that's going to hurt somebody else. We have quiet rooms that are available. There's a range of options of these, right? On 7, there's one that has video but no sound, if you still want to be able to observe the convention, but the sound is an issue. There's also on Piedmont 8, a completely quiet room. One thing to note there, please don't go into that space with anything that's like an aggressive scent, for instance, right?
I mean,
Look,
what?
You may laugh, Honk, but I thought they had some tremendous ideas we could use for instant experts. You know, we could have different listening rooms, including ones with no sound, just video.
Oh, what? Oh, better. Why not completely dark?
Dark and silent. But it's still instant experts, Honk. You know how you know?
No, how do you know?
Because of instant experts' aggressive scent.
Oh,
with which the room is gently and yet aggressively infused.
oh, you're the classy, the Henry touch. That's marvellous. Listeners without video won't be able to see this.
Nor will those in the instant experts' dark room.
But like the guy in the video, I'm holding my hands above my head in noise-sensitive, rapturous applause.
Well, it's even quieter where I am, Honky. The crowd is going absolutely wild. Imagine what's happening out there in instant experts land. There's silence everywhere.
Well, we may have
It's
to
like
have
the Eras tour. It's like Taylor Swift out there. The silence is deafening.
It's exactly the same.
Keep it down, listeners, please.
Now, perhaps we may have to have a little bit more of those fine people a little later in the show. But meantime, it is time for your favourite segment, Henry. It is time for sport.
That's right, Honk, and we're excited to report that our beloved shithouse football team, the Wests Tigers, returned to normal programming this week with their first loss of the season out of a total of 2 games.
As you once said to me, it is the hope that kills you.
It is, and it didn't last long because we were down 6-0 after 5 minutes, 12-0 after 10. We played okay after that, but we still lost 20-16.
What do you reckon the Tigers got the start time wrong? Do you reckon they thought kickoff was 7:45, not 7:35?
It really felt like that watching it. It was like, where are they? They're going to get on the field anytime soon.
At least we can use the old cliche quote, "We won the second half."
Right, which is always code for we lost.
Yeah.
Except we also lost the second half because we were actually up 14-12 at half time.
Oh, God. Make it stop. The West Tigers experience in a nutshell.
Yes, and as you say, it's the hope that kills you. But enough of that, Honk. The big story in this sport this week comes from club cricket. I'm a cricket man, as you know, and it's grand final time in club cricket all around Australia.
Well, except, I believe, for Darwin, which plays in winter. I think they're just only about to get started.
Honky, I'm very impressed. The seasons are reversed in the Northern Territory. You're quite right.
Oh, look, I am all about Darwin. Now we've had a listener there in Vancouver, that well-known Darwin suburb of West Vancouver.
Anyway, it's grand final time in Premier Cricket is the point. That's the top tier of club cricket, one below pro level. And listener Nicholas of Centennial Park sent us the first grade scorecard from the state of Queensland, and it's a doozy. It's the Gold Coast Cricket Club taking on Northern Suburbs at Allan Border Field, named after the great Australian captain. Northern Suburbs won the toss and they sent Gold Coast into bat. Now, normally, Honk, you bat first when you win the toss, especially in finals. And Northern Suburbs, in this case, are the higher-ranked team. So under the rules, they only need a draw to win the premiership, which means they must have seen something in the pitch, some grass or a bit of moisture or something.
So Northern Suburbs sends Gold Coast into bat first because they're looking for some easy earlier wickets to put Gold Coast under pressure from the start of the game.
Exactly, and that's what happens. Gold Coast scores a single run off the first ball, and then there's a wicket off the second ball.
Wow.
So the second Gold Coast opening batter is out for a golden duck out the first ball that he faced, caught by wicketkeeper Srivastava, bowled by Skelly.
Oh, the old firm, Srivastava and Skelly. How often do you see them combine? It's the Court Marsh bowled lily of Queensland.
Well, you joke, but it turns out you see them combine quite a bit. In fact, they combined for another wicket next ball. They got the number 3 Gold Coast batter out for a golden duck as well.
Court Srivastava bowled Skelly.
Caught Srivastava, bowled Skelly.
Forget Marsh Bowled Lily. This is Court Healy Bowled McGrath.
Ian Healy, a great Queenslander, of course, Honky, as you know.
As I know. This is Court Hartley Bowled Pickle. This is Court Second Bowled Kasprowitz. This is Court Phillips Bowled Dimmock. All names I was pleased to have even heard of for the first time as I just read them. Thank you, Henry.
Anyway, so Gold Coast is now 2 wickets down for 1 run. Norths are on top. Gold Coast in all sorts of trouble. And then your mates combine again. Strivers, Starver and Skelly.
So what? So now it's 3 wickets for 1 run? Was that a hat trick?
Well, Gold Coast's 3rd wicket did fall to Strivers, Starver and Skelly, except the score was 3 for 630.
Wait, what? It was 2 for 1. Now it's 3 for 630.
Yep. The number 4 Gold Coast batter and the opening Gold Coast batter who didn't get out, the one who got the single off the first ball, combined for a partnership of 629 runs.
Holy shit.
The opener made 272 and the number 4 guy made 340.
Unbelievable.
They each faced 492 balls, or 492 pitches if you're listening in America. That's basically 2 days of cricket.
They batted for 2 days and the other team didn't get a wicket in all that time.
Correct.
I presume at some point the other team just killed themselves. Like 2 days in the field without a wicket. That's like the cricket version of the Death March to Bataan, isn't it?
Yeah, a few of them might have died along the way for sure. But as Rob from Singapore dryly texted, it was a new ball wicket.
Just going back a second, did you say that one guy made 340 runs while the other guy made 272 runs?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He was a bit slow, wasn't he, the 272 guy?
Slow might be a bit harsh, but the 340 guy did hit 12 sixes along with 30 fours. So that's 192 in boundaries alone. The 272 guy hit only 124 in boundaries.
272, have a go, you mug. Can't block all day, mate. Have a fucking swing.
But in fairness, the 340 guy did get out. The 272 guy was still going when they declared their innings closed.
Mate, you can't just get to 340 and throw your wicket away. Once you get a start, you got to kick on and make a big score. You don't win grand finals making 340 and getting out slogging. How many times have I got to tell you, son? Take it easy, block a few like your 272, mate.
Anyway, well done, Stefan Muller, no relation to the Democratic Socialists of America, and Hugo Burden. They were the 2 batsmen.
Did the other team ever actually get to bat?
They did. They are 3 for 36 at stumps on day 2, and the game continues this weekend.
What, the game is still going?
Yeah, it's a 3-day game.
This really is the death march to Bataan. Anyway, well done, and good luck to the survivors. All right. Henry, after that belly crawl, that shameful belly crawl through sport, the lowest brow element of our show, it is time to reward our most sophisticated listeners with what else? Cunt of the week. Music, please.
I'm a cunt.
All right, kicking us off is the great Kimberly Horrelack, who has been charged with assault after a fight with an employee of the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Now, whoever's fault it is, Kimberly Horrelack is still our first ever positive cunt of the week because, Henry, she is a professional, quote, vaginal weightlifter. This is her. Have a look.
Is that what you hit him with, or her? The ABS person and the weight, I mean.
Unclear. Listeners, you'll have to check out our video episode. The link is in our show notes. No words can do it justice, this photo. But by the way, just a little side note, I was preparing this story for us late at night and I was in a text chat with a friend and I accidentally out of nowhere sent him that photo. We are no longer friends.
Well, I reckon it was the OnlyFans guy. Admit it, you killed him. You shocked even him. Shocked him to death.
Maybe.
Now, honourable mention this week also honked to a friend of the show, the Trump Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Last year, we mentioned the very strange stories of RFK dumping a dead baby bear in Central Park in New York, true story, and also cutting the head off a beached whale, tying it to the roof of his car, and then driving down the highway with rotting whale juice dripping into the car through the open windows of the unair-conditioned car with kids in the back. This week, a 2001 entry from RFK's diary has surfaced in which he also writes about stopping the car to run over to a dead raccoon. So roadkill on the side of the highway, cut its penis off, get back in the car with it and drive off again with his kids in the car watching it all.
Henry, Who among us? Come on, fair's fair.
And I'd also like to acknowledge another friend of the show, Vladimir Putin, who makes our Cunt of the Week chart twice this week. Once for his new policy to fix Russia's plummeting birth rate, which is to mandatorily send for psychiatric evaluation any woman who answers in her medical health survey that she doesn't plan to have children.
Because Russia's such a wonderful place to have a family.
It's got the best gruel in the world. Oh,
delicious.
Now, his second appearance, Vlad, that is for his foreign intelligence service, the SVR, which has been caught trying to help Russian ally, the Hungarian autocrat Viktor Orban, avoid almost certain loss in the Hungarian elections in April, and he's about to lose because he's a complete fucking cunt, by helping Orban stage a fake assassination attempt. Honk. I'm just trying to think where I've heard that idea before associated with an ally of Vladimir Putin.
Nothing comes to my mind.
Yeah, not even your ear.
Nothing comes to my ear either. Wait, maybe my ear. Maybe my ear.
You're supposed to buy the blood capsule down.
Oh, sorry, forgot. That's why nothing came to my ear. Sorry. If we do it again, something will come to my ear. Okay. Now, we mentioned last week former Australian of the Year and sexual assault awareness advocate Grace Tame, who did her best to end her own career, we said, by appearing on ABC Radio, what was meant to be a friendly interview, to complain about, she says, being cancelled for encouraging Sydney crowds to, quote, globalise the Intifada pretty much right after the Bondi massacre, and then using her time on the air to successfully try to deny that any Israeli women were actually raped by Hamas on October the 7th, despite the United Nations accepting that as fact. So congratulations to the Amit Khan at the Melbourne Writers' Festival for hearing that and then deciding that it was a great idea to invite Grace Tame to be a speaker on their session about the suffering of women through history.
Well, the full title of the session, Honk, is The Suffering of the Insufferable.
I'm being unfair. The full title of the session is The Suffering of Women Through History, not including those lying Jewish bitches. That makes sense. But I do also want to acknowledge the fine work of a Catholic parishioner in Adelaide. There's a coronial inquest going on there at the moment where it's alleged this little old lady was so racist to the Indian-born local parish priest that he killed himself. What? Like a 90-year-old lady.
Is that true?
Apparently. That's the allegation anyway.
Well, to be fair, Honk, Jesus lived in Jerusalem circa 30 AD, so clearly he was a white guy.
Clearly.
So that's obviously prime cuntiosity, Honk. And so too are friends of the show, the Iranian regime, getting a lot of airtime at the moment. They're on our chart for having one of their UK cells firebomb 4 of the 6 Hezbollah ambulances in London's Golders Green, a Jewish area of London. And Honk, you may not know this, but Hezbollah are those Jewish identified ambulances that provide free added medical emergency services to anyone in need in the area, Jewish or not. They saved lives at the Bondi shooting too.
Henry, you clearly went to an excellent shul.
Yes, it was a Uniting Church one, but anyway, it's typical cuntistry from Iran.
And now, Henry, though, as cunty as all those people are, we come to the heavyweight battle of the cunts for this week. Now, both of these nods are for weird shit involving kids and schools. Get ready. So Siu Hang Johnny Lee is a 46-year-old maths professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. He was in Australia visiting Sydney Grammar School when he was arrested. Why? Because he was in school uniform trying to blend in with the other actual schoolboys during a week in Sydney. True story, during a week in Sydney last week, turns out he bought and may have worn uniforms for 4 different boys' schools. Grammar, Sydney Boys High, St. Ignatius and Trinity Grammar. No. And when the cops arrested him, they found 30 photos of boys from those schools on his phone. He's been suspended by his university.
Quite possibly hired by a Catholic school near you.
Again, second chances, Henry. Ever heard of them? There's actually a vacancy in a parish in Adelaide. He'd be perfect for, I reckon. But still, that guy's still your amateur sicko fucker, because now you need to meet your professional sicko fucker.
Right.
This is Lisa Edmondson was a school teacher in Auckland. And at her school, for a long time, there was some concern about the smell of rats and mice in classrooms. But it turns out it wasn't rats and mice. It was Lisa, which the school became aware of when someone identified her to the school with her genitalia visible in a porn video, urinating in the classrooms on a porn site. Including, Henry, in one video, into the kid's lost property box, onto a child's hat with the child's name visible. What? Story. In her defense, In her defense, in a teachers' disciplinary tribunal hearing, Lisa called it self-sabotage, self-sabotage. And she said, quote, I can't change what I have done, but I can make sure it never happens again. Yeah, but go to the fucking toilet, mate.
Oh, she was dead set taking the puss.
It had to be said. Lisa Edmondson, in a first for the otherwise great nation of New Zealand and a first for this show, congratulations. You are, without doubt, our cunt of the week.
Oh, a worthy winner. All right, folks. Thank the suspiciously swarthy-looking Christ. That's all we have time for. Thanks for your company. Hugely appreciated, as always. You can watch the show if you're not already, including this episode on video on YouTube. The link is in our show notes. Drop us a like or a comment, which we'd love to get. Or you can also watch on Spotify, where you've got a choice of video, or if you're worried about seeing any wet school hats, by audio only. We're on audio everywhere you get your podcasts and in all the usual social media locations, especially TikTok, which is growing strongly. Thanks for all your likes and comments there, as well as Instagram and again, YouTube for our short clips. And please do remember to share us on your socials, your WhatsApp groups, and share with your friends generally. It really, really helps the show.
It does. And if you can, take a moment to rate us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you listen to our show there. As we always say, check out our show notes for a rundown of what's in the show. From our show notes, you can send us a text. We'll read it on the show. From our show notes, you can send us a voicemail direct and we'll play it on the show. And do read our show notes for jokes so dumb that even Lisa Edmondson wouldn't piss on them.
We'll be back again next week at the usual time, as soon as possible on Saturday, Australian Eastern Standard Time. Now, as you know, we like to finish the show with some video/audio of particular crookery, fuck-witticism, or moronification. So we're going to leave you with a little more of the majesty of the Democratic Socialists Conference we showed earlier. And if it didn't turn you into Tucker Carlson before, it may turn you into Nick Fuentes now.
And after that, another fine piece from the very good political satire puppetry Instagram account Real Puppet Regime. Now, this past week, Vladimir Putin has stepped up his attacks on Ukraine with some of the heaviest bombardments of that war to date. And his weapons, as we've talked about before on the show, no doubt financed by all the oil that Trump has let Putin sell when he lifted Russian sanctions in order to ease the mess caused by Trump's own incompetent failure to see that Iran would limit world oil supplies by shutting the Strait of Hormuz. Anyway, here you're going to see Vladimir Putin as a puppet expressing his gratitude for his new oil profit bonanza in a most unexpected way.
Outstanding. Thanks again, everyone, for listening or watching. Enjoy the unintentionally funny woke Muppets, followed by the intentionally funny Russian puppets.
And as the great Henry Lee always says,
does that weightlifter lady do personal training? Because
come on.
And of course, stupid never sleeps.
Don't talk to cops. Don't talk to MAGA assholes. We're almost there. Just but thank you.
Quick point of privilege once again. Hi, James Jackson, Sacramento DSA, he, him. I have already asked people to be mindful of the chatter of their comrades who are sensitive to sensory overload, and that goes double for the heckling and the hissing. It is also triggering to my anxiety. Like, the be comradely isn't just for, like, you know, let's keep things civil or whatever. It's so that people aren't going to get triggered and so that it doesn't affect their performance as a delegate, okay?
Resolutions and
Very
amendments
brief.
committee.
Very brief point of information. If you are using a microphone, talk into it directly like I am right now, and do not wave your face back and forth because people cannot hear you. That is all.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for the pointers.
Vladimir Putin here with new episode of me and she's wellness podcast, This Authoritarian Life. You know, She, in this crazy modern existence, I think we are losing something important. Gratitude. Radical gratitude. Do you hear it? Coo, coo, coo. Coo, coo, why are you making that sound? It's sound of universe whispering gifts to us. Coo, coo, coo. Are you having a stroke? Listen, She, a month ago I was in a bad place, running out of money, lots of new sanctions, no progress in Ukraine, not even new Taylor Swift tour to look forward to. You were really spiraling. But then they started the war on Iran. Right. Oil prices went up, boom. They loosened sanctions, boom. I'm getting rich again. And nobody's talking about Ukraine anymore. Dude, they even took weapons from Ukraine and sent them to Middle East. They also took from South Korea. Cool. And craziest part is I did nothing myself to make any of this happen. Just manifesting. Cool.
Public regime.